We all have goals.
Hmm.
We want to achieve something, significant, a career milestone, maybe launching a big project or just mastering a really difficult skill.
Hmm.
But there's this silent internal saboteur waiting at every single turn. It's ready to derail us right when we need to be our most focused.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a stack of material centered around the book Ego is the Enemy, and we're going to try and extract the most practical lessons on defeating that invisible opponent.
And this is such a crucial deep dive because the enemy we're talking about, it's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of opportunity either. It's an unhealthy belief in our own importance, that feeling of superiority, of, arrogance that goes far beyond just earned confidence.
And that's a really important distinction to make, isn't it? Because we're so often told we need more self-belief.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is, well, it's the toxic kind.
Exactly. Confidence is earned. It's grounded in reality, and it helps you get things done. Ego is? It's stolen. It's artificial. And it forces this conscious separation from reality. That prevents you from getting honest feedback, from really connecting with the world. And if you can't get that feedback,
You can't improve.
you can improve, and you can't truly succeed. So we're going to track this enemy through the 3 essential phases of life where it always attacks: aspiration, success, and failure.
Okay, let's unpack that first phase, aspiration. When we're starting out, we're hungry to prove ourselves. And the ego, it often encourages us to confuse our potential with actual performance, right? We think we need to talk a big game.
Yes.
What key habits does that early ego sabotage right at the foundation?
It sabotages the most crucial link there is, the one between thought and action. The ego, it just wants to talk. It wants premature self-congratulation. It wants the applause for the idea before the hard part, the execution, even begins.
And the material gives us this fantastic, almost unbelievable example of this with Upton Sinclair.
Oh, yeah.
His failed campaign for governor in California, way back in 1934.
Yeah, Sinclair, he was a famous novelist, and he runs for governor, but he publishes this short book called, get this, I, Governor of California, and How I Ended Poverty.
Wait, I, governor.
Yes, and he wrote the entire thing, his policies, his reforms, everything in the past tense.
No way, as if he already done it.
As if he'd already won and finished the job. It's just wild.
That's not just premature self-congratulation. That's actively confusing fantasy with reality.
It is. And the key insight here is that publishing that story, it made him lose interest in the grind of the actual campaign. The talk had replaced the work. And that's the core modern trap, isn't it? Ego makes you focus on the image of success.
The announcement, the LinkedIn post.
Exactly, the buzz, all before you focus on the substance of the difficult, lonely work itself.
So the antidote is to, silence that urge to boast and adopt a kind of perpetual student mindset, one that requires constant reality check.
That's it.
So how do we actually structure our lives to get that necessary feedback?
You have to structure it deliberately, and you have to do it with humility. We can look at the mixed martial arts pioneer, Frank Shamrock. He developed a system for continuous improvement.
What?
He called it plus, minus, and equal. So you need a plus, someone better than you that you can learn from. You need an equal, someone to challenge you, to keep you sharp. And you need a minus, someone you can teach, which forces you to really deeply understand the fundamentals.
It sounds like a personal ecosystem that's just designed to eliminate complacency.
Precisely. It keeps you grounded. You're constantly learning, you're giving back, you're being challenged. The source material warns that the pretense of knowledge is our most dangerous vice, because the second we feel like we know it all,
We're done. We stop improving.
you stop improving.
That's it. I can see how that works for, developing a skill. But what about career strategy? When you're at the bottom of some huge organization or an industry and you feel like you're too good for the basic grunt work?
Yeah. That's where you have to deploy what's called the canvas strategy. The Romans called it obeisance, the willingness to serve. You become the canvas for someone else's success.
So you're the anti-ambulo, the one who clears the path.
You got it. The idea is to attach yourself to successful people and just make yourself indispensable. You focus relentlessly on the quality of your output, not on getting the recognition.
But in today's world, visibility feels like currency. If you're not getting credit, how do you manage your career? Isn't there a real risk of just being overlooked if you follow this too strictly?
That's the short-term ego risk versus the long-term strategic gain. Look at Benjamin Franklin. He was writing popular letters under a pseudonym, Silence Dogwood.
Right.
Refining his craft, learning the public mood, and receiving absolutely zero initial credit. His brother was the one profiting. But Franklin was gaining invaluable experience. He was learning how the system worked without fame or ego getting in his way.
He traded early credit for ultimate mastery.
And you see this in any high-achieving environment. Bill Belichick, he started his career by volunteering for an unpaid job with the Baltimore Colts, just analyzing film.
Just film.
He focused on becoming the absolute best at what other people thought they were too good for, the drudgery, the detail, the grunt work. If you master the fundamentals and make yourself indispensable through pure effort, status eventually has to follow. You achieve greatness by focusing on action, not image.
That sets a really strong foundation, humility. But what happens when that humility leads to massive success? Here's the paradox, isn't it? Once you hit it, the promotion, the sale, the championship ego doesn't disappear. It just changes its target. What's the biggest threat to maintaining that achievement?
The biggest threat is the intoxicating nature of success itself, and the requirement is sobriety. Success introduces this temptation to trade your discipline process for a grand narrative, a story. Ego convinces you that you are now the author of that story, not just the executor of the steps that got you there. It makes you think you're special, that the rules, they no longer apply to you.
The ultimate cautionary tale of that has to be Howard Hughes. He was a genuine, brilliant visionary, but his ego just drove him to self-sabotage.
Hughes. Yeah, he's a tragic case study in ego splitting the mind. He had immense talent, immense resources, and yet his ego led him to these spectacularly disastrous decisions. He lost millions in the market, then invested $20 million in the Spruce Goose.
Which flew once.
Once, for less than a minute. His biographer said his genius and his business sense were like two separate warring entities. One was productive, the other completely destructive. The second he felt untouchable, he stopped being disciplined. He stopped being bound by reality.
He stopped listening to the rules of gravity, both literal and financial.
Exactly. As the executive Harold Gene famously warned, the worst disease which can afflict business executives is egotism, because it just blinds them. It makes them incapable of receiving the crucial feedback that keeps a business alive.
So if ego demands a story, how do leaders stop inventing one when things are going well?
By returning to process. Bill Walsh, he took the hapless San Francisco 49ers and turned them into Super Bowl champions in just 3 years. He consistently denied he had some grand vision or a timetable for winning.
So what was his focus?
His focus was entirely on implementing his standard of performance. This meant demanding, seemingly trivial details, neatly cleaned lockers, the exact passing routes. Coaching staff always had to wear a tie.
So the Super Bowl wasn't the goal. The perfection of the process was the goal.
That's right. His success was just the logical outcome of these relentless, iterative, disciplined standards, not a predictable story. It really reinforces the wisdom that the way to do truly big things is often to start with deceptively small things.
Keep your identity small.
Keep your identity small and focus on execution, not on the legend you think you're creating.
This focus on selflessness over status is the ultimate test, I think. And no one embodies that anti-ego approach better than General George Marshall.
Marshall is the definitive model. Quiet selflessness. He actively discouraged lobbying for his own promotion because he believed rank should be earned, never asked for.
Right.
But the ultimate test came during World War II. President Roosevelt offered him command of the D-Day invasion, the job he had trained for his entire life.
And he declined it, right?
He did. Marshall said the decision was the president's to make, but he felt his ongoing job as chief of staff in Washington, managing the whole war machine, was more critical to the larger mission. He willingly forfeited world-changing glory.
And he cemented Eisenhower's legacy instead.
He did. He put the mission above what they call the disease of me.
And when you contrast that with the tragedy of someone like Ulysses S. Grant,
the contrast is just painful. Grant, after the massive success of the Civil War, he succumbed to this ego-driven need for external status and wealth. He chased bad business deals, moving further and further away from his true purpose, his euthymia.
And it led to ruin.
Financial ruin, and a painful, distracting final chapter of his life. It just proves that even immense genius can't save you when external status overrides your internal discipline. Success is temporary, character is permanent.
So if success is the test of character, then failure has to be the ultimate crucible. We all hit setbacks, whether they're small bumps or, catastrophic implosions. Once failure hits, how does ego get in the way of recovery?
Ego turns an objective event, A loss, a layoff, a mistake, into what's called a narcissistic injury. Suddenly, it's not just a setback.
It's personal.
It's a reflection of your worth. And that makes you defensive, full of self-pity, and desperate to blame everyone else. We become too busy protecting our fragile self-concept to actually learn from the failure.
And sometimes the adversity isn't even self-inflicted. I mean, look at Katharine Graham, who took over the Washington Post after her husband's suicide. Her trials were external and just. Overwhelming.
Absolutely. A true baptism of fire. A hostile board publishing the Pentagon Papers under immense court pressure, threats from the Nixon White House, a violent union strike. She had external forces actively seeking the paper's ruin.
So what was her anchor?
Her resilience wasn't based on arrogance. It was based on an external purpose, preserving her family's legacy and the paper's integrity. She just endured the long, difficult slog, eventually winning a Pulitzer and gaining the mentorship of people like Warren Buffett. Endurance based on purpose trumps ego every single time.
When you're stuck in that low period, that adversity, how do you avoid what the material calls dead time? Just passively waiting for the storm to pass.
You transform it. You turn it into a lifetime. Dead time is passive waiting. A lifetime is proactive learning. It's purposeful action within the constraints of the failure. The ultimate example of this has to be Malcolm X.
Right. Arrested for armed robbery at 21, and he turns his 10-year prison sentence into this active learning environment.
He literally used prison as his college. He taught himself to read and write meticulously by copying the entire dictionary longhand. He read history, philosophy, literature voraciously. He didn't wait for his circumstances to change. He used the time he had to change himself.
That's the key.
That is the fundamental takeaway. The situation's occurrence is often outside our control, but its use is always up to you. You cast down your bucket where you are.
That brings us to the final and maybe the most toxic escalation of ego. Doubling down and lashing out when you're cornered. How do you know when to stop digging? When to draw the line?
When ego meets failure, the desperation often spirals into this irrational rule-breaking. The individual feels they have to regain the appearance of status immediately. Think about John DeLorean.
The car company.
Yeah. After his company failed due to gross mismanagement, he didn't pivot or rebuild slowly. He escalated the crisis by attempting a $60 million cocaine deal to save his company. It was ego demanding a massive, immediate win to restore his personal legend.
That is desperation completely divorced from reality.
It is. The goal is to draw the line before that desperation costs you your character, because that's the only thing that gets ruined in failure, if you allow it. The truth is, the only real failure is abandoning your principles.
So how do you do that?
We have to internalize the philosophy of the Roman general Belisarius. He faithfully served a deeply paranoid emperor, and he was often stripped of his wealth and rank. Yet he never complained, he never sought revenge. He understood that doing the right work faithfully was enough. When fulfilling your own standards is what fills you with pride, not the external rewards, then the effort becomes the true measure of success.
That shift in perspective is, well, it's everything. Because ego isn't some opponent we defeat once in our lives.
Not at all. The battle against ego is continuous. The martial artist Daniel Bolelli described it perfectly. It's like sweeping the floor. Just because you swept yesterday doesn't mean the floor is clean today. The dust always returns, and you have to sweep every single day across the entire cycle of aspiration, success, and failure.
And the ultimate reward for this daily internal battle is just clarity. Confidence is earned, it's real. Ego is stolen and artificial. The path to long-term fulfillment requires perfecting the personal, the humility, self-awareness, the discipline, which then often leads to professional success.
But rarely, if ever, the other way around.
We'll leave you with this profound reflection from the philosopher Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with the immense stress of being emperor of Rome. He said, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." So ask yourself, right now, in your current phase of life, aspiration, success, or failure, where do you currently anchor your self-worth? Is it in the external applause, or is it in your internal effort? That is the battle you have to fight every single day.